Hey, what is going on, YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday. And as 2023 comes to a close here, I wanted to give you guys a huge thank you. My channel this year was truly awesome. I think it was a pretty good year for Legends overall, but 2024, as we know, every year is going to be better than the last. And I wanted to do a video of the top 5 ships that this is going to be my list, but in this video, I want you guys to comment and think of ships, if you've played PC or whether or not you've played PC, the top 5 ships that you want to see in the game in 2024. I went ahead and put out a poll, and you guys did a pretty good job of giving me a good list of ships here. So make sure you guys hop in my Discord. I will put a link to that down below. But without further ado, we're going to look at the PC Wiki, which has a huge list of ships for the top 5 ships I want to see in the game in 2024. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get this list going. Starting off at number 5 here, I kind of have a 5A and a 5B. You can see the Druid here on the World of Warships wiki. The Druid is basically a tiny Mino, or half of a Mino here, without torpedoes. And I know you're thinking, what? And part of the reason for choosing this ship is the fact that we don't have that many premium British destroyers. So whether this ship would be Tier 8 premium or even a Tier 7 premium, I just think that we need a lot more British destroyers in the game. And of course, I had to give some love to my fellow UK, not my fellow, but my friendly UKers out there, as well as my Australians. And my true choice here would probably be for Legendary Tier, the Vampire 2. This is a ship that is currently a museum ship. She's moored in Sydney, Australia here, and she's basically just like a little bit of a better gunboat daring. She has a pretty gnarly hydro. 5-kilometer hydro there, as well as a fast main battery reload, high fires per minute, AP with improved pen angles, good torpedo damage. Now you do lose 1 rack of torpedoes. I think you only have 5 there. Yeah, that's under the cons. Good damage though, and I think they get a little bit increased range, improved acceleration, and very good concealment. So basically a better daring with less torpedoes, which is honestly the purpose of the daring class anyway. I see a lot of people, I mean, I do run torpedo reload, so don't I'm not going to point out everyone, but some people play them as torpedo boats. But those hunter-killer type destroyers are really essential for kind of balancing out the nasty shimakazes that are always ruining high tiers. And I think with some more destroyers added to the game, such as this one, it would kind of help prevent some of those sneaky torpedo boats from getting behind you. But that and the Druid, as well as some other British destroyers, are my pick for ship, or my 5th pick on my list of 5 here, of course, having a 5A and a 5B. All right, guys, coming in at number 4 on my list is, of course, the Kremlin, the Soviet Tier 10 battleship on PC, which, of course, would probably make her way to Legendary Tier in Legends. The development of the new Project 24 commenced in 1941. The project's requirements included dual-purpose artillery instead of secondary guns, enhanced torpedo protection, and a reinforced protection of the ship's fore and aft ends. The ship's designation was to destroy surface ships of all types in open sea and near coastal areas. In 1950, variant 12 of the project was approved. However, the country lacked a shipyard to construct a 70,000-ton displacement ship. As well as that, the state authorities had also lost interest in large surface ships by that time. The Kremlin. A lot of you have played PC, know this ship, and even those who haven't know this ship. A true battleship of all battleships, 457 millimeter guns, 3x3 with 108,000 health. Imagine a Sovietsky Soyuz with even better guns, more armor, and of course those secondary or dual purpose guns. So let's go ahead and look at her pros and cons here. The highest hit point pool in the game, well armored, short damage control party. So that is of course one of the weaknesses. Extremely good dispersion at close to medium ranges, quick turret traverse, and good firing angles. I mean, this is one of those Russian wargaming bias ships. A lot of pros, and of course there's some cons listed here, but yeah, she's going to be super strong if she ever does make it into Legends. 457 millimeter gun, allowing her to overmatch 30 millimeter plating. Of course, there's not too many ships with 30 mil. The Zhao is one, and of course some mid-ship or belts of different ships. The Hindenburg is kind of one that comes to mind, but that 30 mil would be getting overmatched at all angles. AA suite rivals that of some high-tier light cruisers if spec'd properly, so pretty good AA, good concealment, well-protected main battery, massive AP alpha strike of 130,000, 500 damage, and a good good torpedo protection, as well as an excellent rudder shift. So pretty strong overall shift. Now, of course, there's a bunch of cons listed here, but if you know how to play Russian battleships, I had a game in the Soyuz, and we actually still have to put one up. I may put that as like a pre-look to the Kremlin. The Sovietsky Soyuz is an excellent battleship at Tier 8. Short main battery firing range compared to other Tier 10s, but in Legends, that isn't really, I mean, it is considering they nerfed or shortened battleship ranges, but that's not really going to be a problem too much in Legends, or as much of a problem as it would be on PC. Long main battery reload, and with our commanders and an epic reload mod, I could see that getting down into the 28s, maybe even 27. Massive size, she's the second largest battleship in the game. Despite having 60mm belts, she lacks the full bow of the Kurfürst, which means she can and will take penetrating hits from Yamato, Musashi, Shikishima. Okay, well, not too worried about that. Yamato can kind of do that anyway. Large turning circle of 1,090 meters. Yeah, you're turning a football stadium there. Despite good armor, she has a large citadel. So yeah, again, the Russian battleships, just like the Borodino and the others we talked about, don't show broadside. And as, of course, one of the balancing factors is possible to run out of damage control parties with a limited number there. Her size makes turning and slowing down feel like an eternity. I like how they put that on the wiki page there, and a vulnerable to torpedo strikes due to massive size. So you just couple that with some good players and even, you know, some new ships like the Druid or the Vampire 2 there, and you will be protected from those nasty IJN or torpedo type destroyer players. But a ship that I definitely want to see come into the game, I know she would be a fan favorite. We have a lot of battleship players in this game, and definitely one that would excite me. This ship was coming, the Venetsia, the Italiano Tier 10 cruiser. My third choice for ships that I want to see come to World of Warships Legends in 2024 is the Venetsia, the project of heavy cruiser with 15 main battery guns and a high speed. The ship embodies the achievements of Italian shipbuilding of the early 1940s, a true Italian masterpiece here. 15 203mm guns with, of course, access to SAP. She has a pretty decent HP pool. The long-range Italian torpedoes, which are kind of those floating sea mines. You get a lucky hit every now and then. She has a pretty good top speed, and of course, I actually run my Italians. I know you guys, I'm not a big fan of agile builds, but I actually do run most of my Italians with agility. So that top speed there can get up probably well into the 40s with the proper cruiser commanders there. But let's go ahead and look at her pros and cons. You can read the full ship breakdown on the World of Warships PC Wiki website. Pros: 15 203 guns. Venetsia's broadside can be devastating. Excellent ballistics, high shell velocity, and flat arcs on both SAP and AP. Incredible handling for a vessel of this size with great turning radius and blazing fast speed. Exhaust smoke generator. And I want to say something real quick. The exhaust smoke generator for the cruisers is just, I don't know why it's 15 seconds. Why do we not have the same as PC on that? I think we have very similar battleship as well as the destroyer lines. I think it's very similar in terms of duration. So I don't know why we have a 15-second, but that needs to change. Hopefully, when the Venetsia comes to the game, we will get that longer exhaust smoke generator. Good continuous damage output of her anti-aircraft guns, extended above the waterline belt, reaches to the tip of the bow and is 40mm thick. And that is kind of one of the trade-offs for having a weak bow is good side armor, so you can bounce even Yamato guns if angled correctly. Armed with torpedoes with long range and low detectability, and very good turret angles for a ship with 5 turrets. So kind of just a beautiful looking ship there. She's like a modern looking, of course, Italian type ship, but that SAP, yeah, if you guys know how to use that SAP, the SAP is really dominant on lightly armored targets such as destroyers, the bows of ships, and of course the angles you can pen with SAP, I think, are up to 80 degrees. I'm not completely up to date on my exact shell knowledge of SAP, and that is one thing I'm going to try and do a better job of in 2024, is adding tutorials and explaining the basics of the game that I have known for years now, but a lot of potential new players might not know. And this game is very complex, and learning all of these things is not, it's only going to improve your gameplay knowing the shell ballistics and all the angles with SAP of maybe by like 5%. But we're going to try and do a better job of explaining those things. The cons, however, of the Venetsia: poor concealment, horrible smoke firing penalty, very poor reload. What is it? Let's take a look here. Yeah, so a pretty bad reload of 21 seconds. I didn't think it was that bad. Of course, you can get access to Mimbelli, which is a pretty good agile, I believe, commander. It's going to lower that reload, but 21-second reload is you're gonna want to take some good and well-timed shots. The placement of her turrets only allow for 2 of her turrets to be available when bow in. You don't really This is definitely not a ship you want to play bow in a lot of the time. Poorly armored turrets can be disabled. Despite good anti-aircraft armament, the performance is impaired by poor range. So yeah, SAP shells lose a lot of effectiveness if they cannot penetrate or hit saturated areas. And I think this is even a problem in Legends. I think they oversaturate too quickly. That first salvo you get on a lightly armored target absolutely decimates destroyers, and we've dev struck destroyers from good health points, but yeah, that is definitely a weakness of the SAP and lacks utility, which we've mentioned a bunch. So no radar and no hydroacoustic search. So you are, like we talked about in the Zhao video yesterday, you are a damage-dealing, damage-attracting cruiser that can potentially get into some unique positions, but sometimes that's not what your team needs. However, this is my third choice. Let me know what you guys are thinking if you've reached this point in the video. I guarantee you it's too long already, but I love all you guys. I'm going to give out a ship code to anyone who says... what's the first thing? Pizza that pops in my head. Yeah, shout out to Brian with Little Caesars there. But let's move on to ship number 2. All right, guys, here we are at my second choice. And of course, it's going to be another cruiser, and it goes to the Moskva, the Russian Soviet Special Premium Tier 10 cruiser. Now, of course, we know that the Petropavlovsk is our Tier 8, and both of them are Tier 10s on PC. So we can only assume that this has got to be the legendary tier cruiser, and she's an absolute beast. A ship designed and intended to destroy light enemy cruisers and fight against heavy cruisers, Project 66. Execute Order 66. Unlike her foreign counterparts, she boasted bigger dimensions and better armor protection. The cruiser's main battery surpasses foreign guns in the maximum range and destructive power, but had a lower rate of fire. Those 220s, man, when you catch battleships and cruisers at good ranges, those guns are a lot of fun, and that's what the game should be, right? When you catch those players broadside, they should absolutely pay for it. But to me, the Russian cruisers, especially ships like the Petro, the Stalingrad, are just true tanks of ships with access to their surveillance radar. You can kind of place them in certain spots where you couldn't potentially get other cruisers, and sometimes battleships are too clunky or slow to get there. But let's go and look at her pros and cons. Actually, before we do that, I want to give an honorable mention, I guess number 2B here, to the Z-52. The ship should have been in the game such a long time ago, and I was super excited to see it come eventually, but I've kind of lost that excitement just because we've definitely needed some more destroyers, but this ship was the balancing factor to the daring, and the Germans are kind of the balancing factors to the British destroyers with their longer range sonar. But I've just kind of lost that excitement. We have the Z-46, which is close enough, and this is just basically a better Z-46 with a few of her guns on the front there. Don't get me wrong, if she were to come to the game tomorrow, I would absolutely be playing her a lot, but it's just, wargaming has taken too long, and part of the problem with legendary tier and World of Warships Legends and their balancing factor is the way that we get legendary tier ships. Now, I think that the upgrades or the updates to the Bureau are pretty good in the fact that you have to have the tier 8, but before that, it was just kind of a hodgepodge mix of different ships. There was no balancing factors, and you don't even have to have the Minakaze to get the Shimakaze. We had some Shima players asking what commander builds to run, and that just ruins high-tier gameplay. Now, of course, it's a video game. This is just a gripe of my part, but that was a ship that I wanted to see come, but I've kind of lost my interest, so to speak. But let's go ahead and look at the pros and cons of the Moskva. Basically, a little bit better or a little bit stronger Petro, with an extremely large hit pool point comparable to a Tier 8 battleship, one of the longest gun ranges among all cruisers, high top speed, outstanding shell velocity, good accuracy, and flat arcs, which makes getting, access to citadels and broadsides very easy. I think there's a little bit of an shell to armor interaction where you see a lot of these citadels or ships sailing broadside on PC, and they will get citadel. Now, of course, RNG and overpens are a quote unquote balancing factor, but I just feel like it doesn't happen as much on PC. Powerful AP shells with excellent penetration, enough to Citadel battleships, so that's probably going to lead to a lot of overpens on Legends, but regardless, a good AA suite with the option for defensive AA fire, thick armor for a cruiser, very durable when properly angled, and has access to surveillance radar. So a very strong ship, and one last thing, fires last standard cruiser duration, not large cruiser duration. So the Stalingrad and even the French cruisers, I believe, have a 45-second fire. So hopefully this one will be 30. So a very strong ship. You couple that with a long-range Russian radar, and you've got yourself a formidable cruiser that I hope to see come to the game sometime soon. The cons: an enormous ship with abysmal concealment, very large turning radius, poorly armored turrets can be easily disabled or destroyed, doesn't have any torpedo armament, which is standard. And AA, I love these two things here under the cons, because it's like, these are not cons, these are just, you can't make an invincible cruiser. AA suite susceptible to HE hits. Most AA suites of every single ship in the game are susceptible to HE hits, but the Russians might be, I guess, even more susceptible. Very large and exposed citadel block, so don't sail broadside, as we all know with Russian ships. Its outer plating is the ship's armor belt. So you don't have an extra layer of armor belts. If you don't angle correctly, good night. Thanks for playing. Cannot withstand concentrated enemy fire despite its armor and health being similar to a battleship's. I don't know why that's a con, because that's like saying all ships sink. Well, yeah, no shit. Anyway, I feel like that's Wargaming's way of making sure that it's just they don't have 3 cons listed to the pros. This is definitely going to be a strong ship if it ever comes. Cannot withstand concentrated. All right, I already read that. Exposed citadel, huge size, poor concealment, and large turning radius make disengaging a challenge. So you definitely want to think about your positioning. But that is the Moskva and my second pick, as well as a 2B, if you will, with the Z52. We have finally arrived at my number 1 pick. You all knew what it is. He knew it. I know it. Everybody knows it. The Hindenburg, the German Tier 10 cruiser. This ship was developed from a series of German heavy cruisers. Unlike ships of preceding classes, she boasted an increased displacement and more powerful main battery guns. The Hindenburg will be an absolutely disgusting ship when and if she ever comes into the game. If you guys did not know, it's actually teased in the stats screen page. I don't know if I'll have a clip of it, but I've definitely clickbaited it before. So the model, at least, or some form of the model, is in the game. So I don't know why we haven't got it yet, but I really hope it comes soon. She's got the 203s, and she's got 12 of them. It's basically a rune with an extra turret, and you guys have seen how dominant the rune can be, getting 15k salvos every 7.5 seconds. Well, the reload time is 9.8, but with our cruiser commanders and, of course, like a refill station, things like that, and a reload mod, you could probably get that even lower than 7.5. But anyway, she's got 51,000 health points, the standard German torpedoes of 6 kilometers of range. They're basically just rush torpedoes or battleship deterrent torpedoes, but they do a lot. So how many do we have? Let's see here. Wait, did I miss them? I did. So 4x4, 16 torpedoes there, 2 sets of 4 on each side, with a max damage, what is it, 13,000, so maybe not the most, but you connect all 8, and yeah, most if not all ships are going down. So the pros: fast reloading, 203mm guns, not as fast as Des Moines, of course, Daddy Des Moines, Baby Des Moines, my ship, but with a better base range and shell arc, so a little bit faster velocity there, which does make island lobbing a little bit harder, but you just need to be a touch further away. Excellent shell velocity with low gun arc makes hitting distant shots easier. Good range on her main guns, which also can be boosted up to 20.7. So that's, of course, PC ranges. I don't think anything over 18 for cruisers is kind of a waste. But anyway, one of the highest damage cruiser armor-piercing shells in the game. Hindenburg will punish any ship that is completely broadside to her, regardless of class. So, yeah, that 15k salvo we had on that Yamato, imagine that, but with an extra 3 guns adding to that total. You will be dev-striking cruisers if you can catch them broadside. This is going to be a truly devastating and epic ship. Decent torpedoes with good firing arcs. Armor scheme is deceptively sturdy. She is hard to citadel with her turtleback at short range. And this has happened to me a lot, and I didn't really realize what was happening until I asked a question. And this is part of the game we talked about, which is very complex. you can hit that turtle back, and if you're a close enough angle, it will ricochet or bounce that shell up into the superstructure, and you will get an overpen worth of damage. Now, at medium ranges, the German cruisers eat citadels like sorority girls eat, well, never mind. Best hydroacoustic search in the game historically has managed to stay fairly consistent despite changes in the mechanics of the game. So I think the German cruisers, I was not a fan. A wee young Aaron was not once a fan of the German cruisers, but I have been swayed toward the dark arts, mainly because I believe the German cruisers are you have to be a true cruiser master in order to master the German cruisers. The Rune is a good example of this. She's not a popular tier 8, but when you put her in the right spots, even with her bad gun layout, she can just decimate, and I mean decimate, a lot of things. You guys have seen her, play her with the Augustin Riegerwald commander. It's just, yeah. The reason I say that is, American cruisers can get close to islands. French and Italian can be true agile, and yes, you can run it agile, but I think a good mix between position, concealment, etc., can really just display how good you are as a cruiser commander. But here are her cons. I'm not going to read all of those because this video is already too long and I'm kind of out of breath from blabbering on here. But basically, a few balancing factors. But yeah, those are my top 5 ships, top 7 or 8 really, with the A's and B's that we had in there. But Hindenburg has to come to the game. I just wonder if it would be too strong. I don't think so. We have some really strong ships already at Legendary tier, but I think it's a certain necessity that will eventually come this year. But that is my top pick. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. This was a fun video to do. Let me know if you guys want to see future videos like that. If not, we will be still doing the replays as always. Have a fantastic end to your 2023. Have an even better 2024. Make sure you guys hop in my Discord. I can't express my gratitude enough for the support of the channel. We're almost at 10K followers or subscribers or whatever it is, and I don't even count Twitch and other avenues, but you guys are really awesome. I truly appreciate the support. I never thought, some dork doing some awful videos in his room when he was getting his master's degree would ever turn out to be it would ever turn out this well. But I really appreciate you guys. And again, if you've stayed this far in the video, comment Aaron is the best, and I'll get you a code. First one is going to get a really nice code to comment that, which means you watch the end of the video. All right, enough blabbering. Love you guys. I'm out. Peace.